Good morning, everyone. Today is the 8th day of Tammuz, Tammuz, July 14th. And we're on page 68 in Chayenu. Charlie, you ready? Let's go. The flow and in today's lesson. Now the Tanya emphasizes that although the Kabbalists employed the analogy of speech, which is merely a tool of articulation to describe the creative process, nonetheless, Hashem's words obviously are far superior than the greatest human wisdom. In truth, however, the supernal letters of speech are far higher than the level and essence of the wisdom and intellect of created beings. In this, they differ from the letters of man's thought and speech, which are inanimate and belong to a level far lower than intellect. I'm sorry, Nivra Adam Baal Chochma V'Seichel. For man, who we have the ability to process wisdom and intellect, that very same man was created by the utterance of the letters of the phrase, "Let us make man." Since wisdom and intellect are derived from these letters, it's obvious that the letters themselves are far superior to them. Or man, possessor of wisdom and intellect, was created even by the divine breath alone, as the pasuk says, he breathed into his nostrils the soul of life. It was from this breath that was breathed into man that he became a rational being. And since divine speech and breath create man who possesses wisdom and intellect, it follows that the divine speech and breath are the source of wisdom and intellect in the soul of Adam, of man. That man contains all Adam, first man, contains all the souls of the tzaddikim who are superior to the ministering angels, and whose intellect too is superior to that of the angels. All this came forth from the divine speech and breath. Where do we know this word? Mimalachei Hashodes. From the Shalom Aleichem, right? The reason for the transcendence of the supernal letters of the over the soul is that the letters of Hashem's speech are effluences. They come out of power and life force from his emotive attributes, which are, as we said before, they're not separate from Hashem. They're part of Hashem. They're united with his essence of being in a perfect unity. They're perfectly united with Hashem that is infinitely higher than the level of wisdom in created beings. Seems like it's a pshittus here, it's a pashut, but I thought I was just laying it out. They're not termed quote unquote letters, not in relation to the created beings, but only relative to Hashem's emotive attributes themselves. They're only termed letters from Hashem's perspective. From our perspective, I don't even know. It's indescribable, exactly. So the name letters, quote unquote, which signifies that they are lower than wisdom and intellect. Wisdom and intellect of Hashem, that's a higher level, even for us. Wisdom and intellect is here, and letters are a necessary means to express what we're thinking. So they seem to be lower, but it's not applied in relation to created beings, as explained earlier. For they are far superior to created wisdom and intellect. Rather, this term is applied relative to Hashem's emotive attributes, inasmuch as they are only letters, quote unquote, revelations of these attributes. Funny, we use words and letters to articulate just to bring out our wisdom. With Hashem, that was a way of bringing things into being. It's so different that really, obviously, it's not a good mashal at all, as Alter Rebbe said. Huh? Night and day. It's totally different. I think this is important. This is the reason why we have to learn this and we have to learn these concepts, because otherwise if you read it at face value, you start to get the wrong idea. Yeah, Hashem spoke and it came into being. Like, that's the way it is. No, the Alter Rebbe says that's the way the Torah describes it so that you can have some relationship to what happened. Otherwise, it's well beyond our capacity. They, what are they? The supernal letters, the 22 kinds of effluences of life force and power differing from one another, the 22 separate energies of Hashem, so to speak, which all the higher and lower worlds and all the creatures in them were created from these 22 letters. And so for it rose in Hashem's will and wisdom that he created the worlds with exactly these 22 different kinds of energies, neither fewer nor more. Not one less, not one more. And these are the 22 letters which are fixed in the mouth and in the tongue, as we've learned in Sefer Yitzira. The written shape, meaning the shape of the letters of these utterances as written in the Torah, indicate the form of the flow, as will be explained later. So we'll get back to that. But back to subject at hand. Shegam oishis hadibur. The letters of speech. V'hamachshava shebenefesh adam. Speech and thought in a man, in a human soul. And amshachais me'aseichel v'amidas shebenefesh. Imahusan v'atzmusan k'mishbar m'mokimacher. The letters of speech and thought in a human and in our soul are also outflows from the essence and being of the intellect and the emotive attributes, as explained elsewhere. I'd like to think that since we're created Tzelem Elikim, we have certain characteristics like Hashem. If we want to really love Hashem, we have to tap into our neshama. So just like Hashem has these 22 letters, and that's where everything came from, so too, when it comes to translating our ideas, our images into speech, we use these 22 letters, no more and no less, as we've explained previously, and we'll explain later. So the takeaway is as follows. Man's words are articulated by their intellect. We think something might be a good idea, we want to express those words. With Hashem, the words, quote unquote, the letters, are his chosen method of expression to create intellect, create humankind, create all of creation through these letters. So obviously it's, like Menachem said before, it's vastly different, but you find similarities, so we use it as an analogy for us to better understand the ways of Hashem, which we'll never understand. Hagut Tavach, Shavua Tov, all the best to everyone.